Thank you very much to all of you for joining us for this webinar series called Towards Responsible Plant Data Linkage, Global Challenges for Food Security and Governance. My name is Sabina Leonelli. I'm a professor of philosophy and history of science at the University of Exeter, and I've co-organized this series together with my colleague Hugh Williamson, also at the University of Exeter. We are very grateful to the Alan Turing Institute and the University of Exeter for funding the seminar series and indeed funding the project that me and Hugh are involved in called From Field Data to Global Indicators, where we're looking at how plant data can be efficiently and reliably linked across data infrastructures around the world. And if you want to have more information about the project, please go and have a look at our website. Now, the focus for this seminar series is thinking about responsible data linkage in the plant and agricultural sciences and agricultural research. This, of course, is a really large topic. Many different people, organizations, and different kinds of stakeholders around the world are working on this subject. But the purpose of this seminar series is to bring together discussions around the technical, infrastructural, standards-related issues to do with plant data linkage and the socio-political, economic, and governance aspects in this field. And we want to do this by setting up a transdisciplinary exchange, which is also historically informed. And that means that the series brings together a series of illustrious contributors from data science, plant research, from various collections in this field, international organizations, history of science, social studies of science, and philosophy of science. And what we're hoping is that by bringing together these different expertises, we can open up a dialogue about the ethical and the governance and regulatory aspects in this area, and the importance of these aspects in informing the development of data infrastructures, standards, and the research that is done by sharing plant data. And the argument here is that a lot of attention has been given to these aspects in the field of biomedicine, for instance, where it's widely acknowledged that questions around responsibility and governance are really crucial to setting up biomedical research. But this has been much less the case in research on plants and agricultural research. And we're hoping to shift this. And of course, we agree with many different organizations, many of which are actually being represented in this seminar series, in arguing that this joining of technical and social aspects is critical to the development of agriculture and towards making progress for the Sustainable Development Goals. So how this is going to work, we're going to have 4 sessions. Today is the first of those, and we're going to have 16 presentations in total during these sessions. They're going to take place every Friday between 2 and 4 GMT. The sessions are very loosely organized around themes, but in fact, this organization was set up before we received the papers and the presentation. So this is really, to be taken with a pinch of salt. We're going to start today with a session looking at experiences from the trenches. So all sorts of different examples coming from researchers that have looked in detail at the practices of data linkage and their different environments. Then we're going to have a session looking more specifically at technical challenges of data linkage, for instance, standardization efforts and curation efforts. Then we'll have a session 3, looking at governance challenges. And the final session, we look at social challenges and bring things together. In terms of the structure of these meetings, we're going to have 15-minute long presentations from the authors of the papers. And this will be followed by 10 minutes of discussion. We will record the presentations and we'll make them available on the Egenis YouTube channel from April 1st. And we will not record the discussions so that we can actually be free to discuss whatever we want without thinking about the fact that it's going to be documented. And of course, this will include some questions around pre-circulated drafts of these presentations, which were only circulated among the group of co-authors and participants in the workshop, because these are very preliminary. In fact, we are aiming to produce a volume which collects all the proceedings from this series so that they can be available very widely. This will be published in an open access format by Springer, hopefully in 2022. And in the final session of this series, we're going to spend a little bit of time thinking about the potential structure of this volume. I should say many thanks in organizing all of this, both to my co-organizer, Hugh Williamson, who did tremendous work in putting everything together, but also to Chi Wong and Jill Williams from the Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence in Exeter and the Exeter Center for the Study of the Life Sciences, who have supported this effort and are hosting the seminar. So just a little note on housekeeping before we start. All cameras are off and microphones are muted by default. Please, if it's not the case for you, do that during the presentation so that it's easier for presenters to come across and we have less problems of bandwidth. You're very welcome during the discussion period to pose questions to speakers. You can post them in the chat, or you can use the raise hand tool in Zoom, and I'll be picking on you and asking you to formulate your questions. Of course, we can do that within the constraints of the time we have for discussion, but we are hoping for a very lively exchange. Please, of course, also note that we really don't want to have any offensive or abusive language or behavior in the webinar. And if that happens, then the people responsible will be ejected from this seminar. So thank you very much for respecting these rules and for joining us in this event. Without further ado, I will briefly introduce the setup for today, and then I'll give the word to our presenters. So today we're going to have, first of all, Staffan Müller-Wille, an historian of science based at the University of Cambridge, who will discuss with us the ways in which Carl Linnaeus, when collecting material for his taxonomic effort, managed data about plants. Then we're going to have a comprehensive paper by Richard Harrison and Mario Cacamo from NIAB, looking at how to manage data in crop breeding, and particularly some of the regulatory and infrastructural constraints on that. This will then be followed by Helen Curry, another historian from the University of Cambridge, talking about data duplication and the decentralization of crop collections, and particularly in relation to gene banks. And we'll then finally hear from Afola Gbona, and who is going to be presenting on behalf of a wide array of illustrious co-authors, Prasad Peteti, like Elizabeth Parks, Ismail Rabi, Lucas Muller, Chiedozie Egezi, and Peter Kolakov, on the data management strategies within multidisciplinary African RTB crop breeding program, and particularly cassava base. So without further ado, I will be stopping sharing, and I will give the word to Staffan Müller-Wille for the first presentation. Thank you.